You are Locked On Warriors POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone? And welcome back to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And tonight, the Golden State Warriors lost their 12th of their last 15 after falling tonight again to the Los Angeles Clippers at the Intuit Dome. With Steph Curry and Draymond Green out, Jonathan Kuminga contributed a career-high 34 points despite not starting, but the rest of the offense continued to struggle mightily without Stephen Curry. And at this point in the season, it's painfully obvious that the Warriors just do not have the talent to compete with the best teams in the NBA. We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed, making us your first listen following these Warriors games. Make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage as your second listen. Charlie Walter does a great job. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, just visit FanDuel.com to get started. In this one, the Warriors hung tough in the first half in this one after holding the Clippers to just 19 points in that first quarter. But by halftime, they had a deficit, and it continued to grow in the second half. That third quarter was not very good for the Warriors. They're usually pretty good at putting the ball in the bucket in that third quarter. Tonight, just 19 points. They didn't have a patented Steph Curry third quarter flurry because he wasn't out there tonight. And when the Warriors have not had Steph, they have struggled a lot this season. Jonathan Kuminga, last time Steph was not playing, scored 33 points. Tonight, no Steph, 34 points for Kuminga, 11 of 19 from the field. And something that really encouraged me was he was 11 of 14 from the free throw line. That's a big, massive step forward for a guy who has really struggled from the line this season and throughout most of his career. A big step forward for Jonathan Kuminga in his game. He also pitched in 10 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block. So Kuminga really active in tonight's game, had a ton of momentum there in that fourth quarter. But we also saw the bad parts of Jonathan Kuminga as he committed a very costly turnover with just about 1:30 left to play. They threw the ball away on a very bad pass, and the Clippers push it to the other end, score on the other side, and it pushes their lead back up to 8. The Warriors had trimmed it to 6 when they had possession. Could have been a 4 or even a 3-point game if the Warriors get a bucket on that possession, but instead that turnover plus giving up the bucket at the other end pretty much iced this one for the Clippers. And again, it's just not enough late in games or really throughout this game, the entirety of the game, without Steph and when he's just not on. The Warriors do not have really a second guy that they can lean on. Kuminga's 34 points and his 33 points came when Steph was out. I mean, he's had nice nights when Steph is in, but Kuminga still hasn't really fully figured out how to be this version of Jonathan Kuminga when Steph is still in the game. He seems to have a harder time attacking and getting going downhill, knowing when to really just assault the rim and knowing when to pass out and things like that. And he's really needs to learn how to play with Steph if he's going to stick on this Warriors team. I just don't think that you have the time to continue to wait for Jonathan Kuminga to learn. And this guy could turn into a guy who does this on the regular. I mean, he has the ability. There's no question. We've seen Jonathan Kuminga's skill on full display, especially when he's the focal point of a team. He can be the leading scorer, the number one scoring option on a team every single night. If the team around him isn't, that gifted scoring wise, he could be a great player on a not very good team, somewhat like Jordan Poole has been this season for the Washington Wizards, a guy who could kind of help a rebuilding franchise, and you can put some pieces around him that maybe as he gets older in his NBA career, he can learn how to play alongside those guys, and he might turn into an all NBA level player. That very well could happen. But I still think you need to trade this guy. You need to go get somebody to pair with Steph and to chase this last championship that you could possibly get with the Golden State Warriors. The time clock on Steph's career is ticking. He missed another game tonight due to managing that knee issue that he's been dealing with all season. He's, the front end of a back-to-back. He's sitting tonight so that he can play tomorrow night when the Warriors take on the Suns. who are going to be without Yusef Nurkic, by the way. I don't know if you guys have seen the altercation that he got in with the Mavs, but Nurkic threw a punch and connected with a Mavericks player in their game tonight. So he will be suspended, I'm assuming, for tomorrow night's matchup versus the Suns. And that's going to help the Warriors because they have really struggled against teams that have big bodies on the inside. Again, Zubac tonight, 36 minutes, 8 of 9 from the field and 17 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 blocks. This guy was just a menace against the Warriors all night tonight. He's given them problems all season long. It's no mystery that the Warriors really struggle with these teams that are really big on the interior. And you look at this Warriors starting lineup tonight, and they just did not have what it takes to go and beat a team like the Clippers, a team that I think is going to be a borderline playoff/play-in team. That I think they're going to be right around the 6/7 seed. Who knows when Kawhi comes back, if he comes back this season, how good this team could be. But even without him, I think this team is very, very solid. You saw the depth on display tonight. Everybody in the starting lineup scoring in double figures, plus Coffee contributing 11 off the bench. This team is very solid. James Harden having a great season for them. Norman Powell playing the best basketball of his career. And the Warriors, meanwhile, their starting lineup, only one player in double figures. Trayce Jackson-Davis, the only one leading the way for the starters with 15. Obviously, Kuminga led the way with 34, but he came off the bench tonight in this one. And the other Warriors in double figures, Moses Moody had 11, Brandon Podziemski had 10. That's it. And so the rest of the starting lineup, man, I'm looking at Kyle Anderson. I'm looking at Andrew Wiggins with his 5 points on 2 of 11 shooting. And I'm looking at Buddy Hield with his 5 points on his 2 of 8 shooting. Dennis Schroeder, not any better, 3 of 11 from the field with only 7 points. The Warriors, when they're not getting contributions from these other guys, really struggle. Buddy Hield, when he scores less than 10 points, the Warriors are 2-10 this season. Not very good when you don't have a reliable second scoring option. And tonight, Warriors absolutely did not have a reliable second scoring option. Trayce Jackson-Davis, another nice game from him, 7 of 12 from the field, 9 boards. This was a good thing to see from Trayce Jackson-Davis. We talked in our last show about how I think the Warriors offense and how they will run this system. Granted, with Stephen Curry out there, looks so much better when you have an interior presence that can score like Trayce Jackson-Davis. Talked about how at the end of the season last year, the Warriors started to play probably their best basketball of the season when they started giving this guy, 25, 30 minutes a night. And he was delivering. He was paying the Warriors back. And Steve Kerr, for giving him that trust with a lot of games like this, a lot of double-doubles. He's a guy I think that can put in about 15 and 8 or 9 boards a night if you let him play about 30 minutes. This is the type of game you'll see from TJD. He's not going to dominate. He's not going to take over, but he's going to give you enough on the inside that you got to have those bigs stay home. And that makes a world of difference when you have 3-point shooting. But the Warriors had the furthest thing from a nice 3-point shooting game tonight. 7 of 38 from the floor, from 3-point land, and 18.4%. That's not very good from the floor. Not very good either. Just 36.8% shooting from the floor. Only made 35 field goals, and that's just not going to get it done. You're not going to win very many games in the NBA only making 35 field goals. Score 92 points. That's not good either. So the Warriors just an abysmal night offensively. Only one quarter where you eclipsed the 30-point mark. It just was very sluggish, very disjointed, a lot of ball watching, a lot of not the Warriors offense we're used to. Obviously, no Steph Curry, no Draymond Green. This offense is going to run very differently without their main facilitator in Draymond Green and one of their main screen setters, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry, obviously the best 3-point shooter on the planet. The offense looks dramatically different. But when you have Lindy Waters 0 for 6 from 3, Buddy Hield 1 for 6 from 3, Moses Moody 1 for 5 for 3. Those 3 guys have to be able to contribute 3-point shots when Steph Curry is not out there. Dennis Schroeder 0 for 6 from 3. Nobody on this team had any semblance of a good night from shooting from beyond the arc. Maybe Potts, who was 2 for 5. He's the only guy who made more than 1 3-pointer for the Warriors tonight. It was, you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat. So you got to figure out, tonight was just another night where it shows you on full display that you got to figure out another scoring option for this Warriors team. And I like Kuminga. I really want him to work out for this team. But you see his best when Steph isn't out there, and that cannot be the case. You have to be able to figure out how to play alongside the superstar that's on your team. The straw that stirs the drink is Stephen Curry. Jonathan Kuminga can't be the focal point like this every night, and you have Steph Curry fit into Jonathan Kuminga's game. That's not how this is going to work. It's not how the Warriors are going to win. You have to have Kuminga figure out how to play alongside Steph. And at this point in his career, I mean, he's had plenty of seasons, multiple seasons to start figuring this out. And we've seen some signs of it this year. His passing has gotten better, even though we saw in the final moments tonight him throw a pass away. It was still the right read, just did not execute the play well, threw the ball away. Jonathan Kuminga, his decisions have gotten better, but still not where it needs to be. The decision-making on when to pass out, when to drive, when to kick, all those things, it just isn't where it needs to be playing alongside Steph. And you got to figure out how to get somebody in here that can. At this point, every single day that goes by without the Warriors making a trade is a day wasted that you could get this team better. You fall all the way back down to 500 now on the season after the loss tonight. The Warriors have just been so bad in recent weeks. They're 3-12 in their last 15 games. I mean, you started the season so hot, and now you have fallen, I believe, all the way out of even the play-in. You started today in the 10th spot, and I believe after the loss tonight, you fall all the way out. So the Warriors are just really struggling right now, and you need to do something to mix it up, to change the vibe, to change the culture. You had a players-only meeting, and that didn't work. You still lose the game tonight. I did like how they rallied in this fourth quarter. You could have let this game completely slip away. You were down 19, and you end up shrinking it to a 2-possession game. I think that's a good sign for this team, but still not enough, again, to get over that hump. They couldn't get over the hump against the Lakers in those final minutes. You can't get over the Clippers in the final minutes. You're just talent deficient, just a talent deficient roster at this point. But who's available? I mean, we just saw recently, we talked about Jimmy Butler. I made the case that I finally was in the Jimmy Butler camp on our last show. I was so excited to try and push that just thinking about that roster combination going forward, the Warriors with their defensive tenacity and Jimmy Butler with that dog, that nastiness in him, could really have given the Warriors an identity. But Pat Riley putting out a statement that just changed everything for the Warriors. By now, you probably already have seen it, that Jimmy Butler is not going to be available, per Pat Riley saying to the entire world that they're not going to move Jimmy Butler ahead of the trade deadline. It could just be, bluster and all that kind of stuff. But where do the Warriors pivot next? That's what we're going to go through next on the Locked On Warriors postcast. The Warriors, where do they go from here? Stick with us on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is sponsored by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get rates and perks, usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement bonus on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for just $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and tonight the Warriors fall 102-92 to the Clippers on the road in LA without Stephen Curry. Jonathan Kuminga has another career night with Curry out, 34 points after dropping in 33 in the last game that Curry missed, where Kuminga absolutely went bonkers from the field. But again, not enough for a win. The Warriors look very talent deficient at this point. You have to go make a trade. Get rid of anybody on this team who will bring back a solid return, because right now the Warriors are desperate to get a second scoring option in Golden State that can play alongside Stephen Curry. And Kuminga, you've seen the talent. We saw it on display tonight, but repeatedly it shows itself when Steph is not out there, when Steph is not having a good game. And Kuminga just needs to go and change the Warriors offense and play to his strengths. It's not about Steph fitting into Kuminga's game. It's about Kuminga fitting into Steph's. And he's shown us he's not very good at doing that. He's not adapted his game very well in his seasons here with the Warriors to Steph Curry's game. So I think the Warriors absolutely need to go make a trade to get somebody whose game can fit next to Steph Curry. And if Jimmy Butler is not going to be the guy as the Miami Heat have dug their heels in, I've said all this time that the number one option that they should be pursuing is Cam Johnson of the New York Nets. You already got of the Brooklyn Nets. You already got Dennis Schroeder from the Nets earlier this season. Maybe you could have made the trade for both of them in one package, but I think that he's the guy. I really do think he's the guy. He's averaging about 19 points a game this season. He's a great three-point shooter. He can play defense when he tries, but he hasn't been trying very hard with that Nets team being the way they are this season, it doesn't seem like. But the Warriors are going to have to give up a lot to get him. He also comes with, I believe, a $27 million price tag. His salary this season is slightly under that, but due to incentives and things like that, they have to account for the $27 million that he could potentially earn if he hits all these different markers, which he probably won't based on the season that he's having, but still for cap purposes and apron purposes and all that math stuff that I'm not very good at, he has to be accounted for at a $27 million price tag. So that changes things a little bit for the Warriors in what you're going to have to give up to go get him. But if you were able to persuade them to take an Andrew Wiggins and maybe another piece, and you could keep Jonathan Kuminga, that would be phenomenal. Because whatever Wiggins has given you, I think Kuminga has given it right back at the same level or higher, except for maybe 3-point shooting this season. But the defensive intensity has stepped up in a big way from Jonathan Kuminga. His defense has really impressed me in certain moments this season. It hasn't been as consistent as I hope it to be going forward. But neither has Andrew Wiggins. He has not been very good for the Warriors in recent weeks. This season, he's been a lot better than he was last year. His scoring has gotten back up despite only putting in 5 points tonight. But right now, if you're picking between the two, I think that you want to keep Jonathan Kuminga if you're the Warriors. But also conversely, I think if you're the Nets, you want Jonathan Kuminga back instead of Andrew Wiggins. He's a nice young piece to build around. And Andrew Wiggins is, he's we know what he is at this point. He can't grow into much more than the guy that we've seen. But for Jonathan Kuminga, this guy could be a potential franchise changer. And maybe that's enough to go get Cam Johnson in a Warriors uniform. And I think even if that's the price tag for him, you go and do it. You go and get him. You maybe try and recoup some picks back for it. But I think absolutely you need to go get somebody that can play alongside Steph. And I think Cam Johnson's game fits much better than Jonathan Kuminga's does. Kuminga needs the ball in his hands. He needs to be going downhill and attacking the rim with reckless abandon. And that should theoretically work with Steph, because if it's not there on the drive, you kick and you let the 3-point shooter go to work, and you make the defense do these nightmare rotations where you're trying to collapse off of Steph and then back out onto and switch back out onto him and rotate. That's not going to work very well against a guy with one of those most lethal pump fakes and shots in the history of this game. I think that would be a no-brainer fit, but it hasn't worked. For whatever reason, it just has not worked, whether it's Kuminga's IQ, whether it's Steph. I think he has some culpability in this. He's got to be able, at least to be able to help Jonathan Kuminga out in learning how to play alongside of him a little bit better. Steph, I don't think it's entirely on him to bridge that gap. I think Kuminga needs to be the one to primarily do that, but I think that the veteran could help his young budding superstar out a little bit with kind of giving him some pointers. And you've seen Steph get so amped up in certain moments this year when Kuminga has found him open for three after those driving kick type plays. It seems like something that on paper should work just really well, and it just has not translated. And the Warriors, I think, again, Cam Johnson is the guy in my mind. There's a lot of glaring needs on this team, though. I'm seeing in the chat people saying Miles Turner and things like that. And, I don't think Turner is going to be available at the deadline. But, another great guy that could fit in great here. When you saw how he was playing against the Warriors earlier this season with the Pacers, you saw the exact type of player that he could be. He's hitting threes, he's dominating inside, blocks, rebounds, all those types of things. So I just don't think that the Warriors have just one hole to plug. You got so many issues on this team: a lack of size, a lack of shooting, and it's a lot of holes to fill right now. Turnovers a problem. Interior defense, it's better than it has been in recent years, but has shown to be a problem at certain times. And the Warriors do play pretty good interior defense and rebound well for how small they are. But this is the style of basketball that they play is going to wear out a lot of these guys. You're going to see Jonathan Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins getting a little tired as the season wears on if they have to continue having this high of an activity level, especially on the glass. But you have no other option at this point if you're the Warriors. What are you going to do? Run Quentin Post out there for 20 minutes a game just because you need some boards? I mean, that's not going to happen. Kevon Looney, 12 minutes tonight, and Trace Jackson Davis, 31 minutes. Those are basically your only two big bodies to go rebound anything in tonight's game. I mean, you're relying on like Kyle Anderson and Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga to go pull down some boards. And that's a lot to ask for those guys. You need to have an additional body in there that can help with that. But again, Cam Johnson's not going to be that guy. He only really solves one of these problems. So there's a lot of things that the Warriors need to do to make this team better. It's not just one issue, and that's why you see the issues that this roster has. They find a new way to lose almost every game. I mean, the shooting tonight is really the issue. It wasn't the free throws at all. 15 of 20 from the free throw line, 75%. I think that's a good mark for this Warriors team. But 18.4% from three-point land is just terrible. You're not going to win very many games in the NBA, only making 35 shots from the field and only 7 of those from downtown. 14 turnovers is not a ton, but it's not a few either. So the Warriors just did not play a very solid offensive game tonight. Played a good defensive game. He limited the Clippers to just 102 points, 21 points in the fourth. It was a nice defensive stand there. A ton of turnovers in that fourth quarter, by the way. The Warriors were suffocating. Clippers ended up turning it over 21 times in this one. But again, just not enough offense for the Warriors. And again, I like Kuminga. I think he fits in well when Steph's not out there. But when Steph's there, he does not fit with this Warriors team. And it's becoming obvious that they need to do something. And every day that goes by without making a move is an opportunity wasted for this Warriors team. You see these wins. I mean, games that could become wins. This was a 2-possession game. This game could have been a win. And again, slips away. Their last game against the Lakers went right down to the final possession. Could have been a win. Instead, it's not. If you add one guy to this roster, I think that's enough to get you 1 or 2 extra buckets a game. I really do. I think that adding one player could be the difference between this team being a bottom of the play-in type team or maybe fighting for a playoff spot. But you have to make a move. You absolutely have to make a move at this point. Kuminga, a great game tonight. 34 points, career high. He was showing a lot more skill going left and with his counter moves, and the defense kept trying to force him left all night long, and he kept making the right choice, either passing out or hitting him with the counter or hitting him with like a little mid-range fade, a little floater, a little off the glass action. He was much better tonight, or just forcing the issue to get to the cylinder either way and drawing a foul and making his free throw shots. Great game from Jonathan Kuminga tonight. And I really do hope that it boosts his trade value. I hope the Brooklyn Nets are sitting here watching this going, man, this is a guy that we need here in Brooklyn. We will give you Cam Johnson. Go ahead, Golden State Warriors, you take him off our hands, and we will take Jonathan Kuminga and turn him into the superstar that he can be. And that's what Jonathan Kuminga can be. He can be a superstar in this league. But you got Steph Curry. That's the way you play basketball. Jonathan Kuminga doesn't seem to fit that too well. We've done the 2 timeline thing before. We're not doing that again. The timeline is Stephen Curry's career clock, and the countdown is ticking. You got to find a way to get Steph back to the playoffs, out of the play-in, and into games that matter again, because we know what he does when the game matters. We saw it on Christmas. That was one of the greatest showings from Steph we've seen in a while. And he gets up for those games, those legacy games, those games that count, those playoff battles, and those special regular season matchups. He'll be there for that too. But I mean, you need something. You need something. We got more to talk about on the other side. The Warriors have not come back at all after trailing to start the fourth quarter this season. Why? Why the hell can this team just not win in these clutch games anymore after they were so good to start the season? What the hell is the difference? We'll talk about that and more next on the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. I mean, you got to get in on those touchdown props. And in the NBA games, I mean, I love these 3-point props too, especially when the Warriors are actually hitting 3-point shots tonight. Not so good. And not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and tonight the Warriors fail again in the fourth quarter, could not mount a complete comeback. They got close, got this to a 2-possession game with about 1:30 left before Jonathan Kuminga had a key turnover. The Clippers scored on the other end, pushed it to an 8-point game from a 6-point game, could have been down to a 4 or even 3-point lead for the Clippers. The Warriors had been able to score on that possession, could have shrunk it to a 1-possession game there in the waning minutes of this one, but instead the Clippers pull away in the final minutes and win by 10. What is wrong with the Warriors late in games? To start the season, they were phenomenal in these closing minutes. They seemed like the clutch game gods of the NBA. Recently, that has gone the opposite direction, and it kind of coincides. Their last 15 games or so has just changed, and it really directly coincides with the DeAnthony Melton injury, and people might not realize how big of a loss that was for this Warriors team, but that's a guy who really kind of glued this lineup together. The bench in the starters had the symbiosis where you could swap a few different guys out, still make it work. The defense that he played, the passing that he was able to give you in the second unit, the ball handling, and his ability to also play with Steph in that starting unit. He was able to really keep the Warriors offense on track, continue doing what they wanted to do, playing that same style of basketball. And since he has been gone, this Warriors offense has just been bad. And it's not just him. I mean, as the season has gone on, there's been other things too, like Steph's knee injury has been a thing to deal with. Draymond Green was, shooting the lights out to start the season from 3-point land, which is strange to say, but in the month of December, he's fallen back to backpack Draymond Earth a little bit. I can't take that backpack off that 3-point shot anymore now after he seemed to be rid of it in the beginning part of this season, shooting below 30% from 3 in the month of December after shooting. He was like the best 3-point shooter on the Warriors for the first month of the season, and he's right back to where he was. I think that's the lingering kind of toll that this season, that the NBA season takes on older players. And you see Draymond with those massive ice packs on his knees all the time. And at the beginning of the season, those legs look fresh. It's not looking so fresh right now for Draymond. And obviously he didn't play tonight, but it hasn't been just a one-game thing. It's a culmination of a lot of different things happening. I do think that the wear and tear on your superstars, Steph Curry and Draymond Green, is a big part of this, though. They have been really struggling in recent weeks, save for Steph in that Christmas game against the Lakers. But he's had a lot of really down scoring games as well. He's had nights where he hasn't had a field goal from the field for the first time in his career and things of that nature. So the Warriors have really struggled offensively without DeAnthony Melton. Teams have played Steph a lot differently. They have basically abandoned playing defense against anybody else on this Warriors team on the perimeter and just said, we're not going to let Steph beat us. Beat us with somebody else. And the Warriors have shown that they can't do that. They've shown that they need somebody else on this roster. That's why we keep talking ad nauseum about why they need to make a trade, because it is so painfully obvious. Every issue that this team has loops back to the fact that they're just not talented enough. It's not that they just, Steve Kerr needs to get his lineups right, or this guy needs more minutes. Moses Moody needs to play 25 to 30 minutes a game. The Warriors will start winning games again. Like, none of that is going to change anything. The Warriors could run out any combination of lineup that you have with this roster, and it's still not going to be good enough. The talent on this team is not there to compete with the rest of the teams in the West, the rest of the teams that are vying for a playoff spot. You look at the standings in the West. You look at all the teams ahead of the Warriors: the Thunder, the Grizzlies, the Rockets, the Mavericks, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Spurs, and now the Suns with the loss tonight. Do you think the Warriors are better than any of those teams? I don't think so right now. I really don't. I mean, the way that the Spurs are playing, the way Wemby is playing, the amount of progress that he's made this year playing with CP3, the way that even though the Suns are abysmal, that roster is way more talented than the Warriors. I mean, so when push comes to shove, I think you have to give it to the Suns, and that's maybe the only team on here that you think you can beat out down the stretch. The Timberwolves are going to finish much better than the 8th seed. The Nuggets are in the 7th seed right now. That's probably going to change. But you look at all these teams, the Rockets, the Grizzlies, playing great basketball this season. I don't think that's going to change either. You're better than the Kings, you're better than the Blazers, you're better than the Jazz, and you're better than the Pelicans. That's it as far as the Western Conference goes. This team needs to make a trade. And with Jimmy Butler being supposedly off the table, that's fine. Pivot 100% of your resources to go get Cam Johnson. Mike Dunleavy, if you are one of these people watching the Locked On Warriors postcast, which I can probably assume you're not, but if you are, please, for the love of God, go call the Brooklyn Nets right now. Go get Cam Johnson in a Warriors uniform. Does not matter who you got to give up for it. He would fit much better alongside Steph than even Jonathan Kuminga, who we saw pour in 34 points tonight, a career high for Kuminga. 33 points in his last game without Steph. He's shown that he can be a superstar, but he's shown that he can do that only when Steph is not there. He has not shown the ability to do this and play alongside Steph. The cohesiveness just hasn't developed yet, and time is a ticking. So go get somebody whose game fits with Steph that you can pair in this lineup right now. That guy is Cam Johnson. He's available. Go get him. That's all the time that we got for you guys on the Locked On Warriors postcast today. The Warriors will be taking on the Suns tomorrow night. We will not be coming to you live. We do not have a show tomorrow night, but we will be right back at it in the Warriors' next matchup after that. So make sure you tune in for that. The Warriors tonight lose by 10. It's just a rough night for the Warriors, and the losing streak, not really losing streak, but stretch of really bad basketball over the last 15 games, just 3-12. That continues tonight with the loss to the Clippers. You got the Suns next, and then you got the Cavs after that on Monday. We will be coming to you live on Monday after that Warriors-Cavaliers game. Both of those don't sound like very easy games for the Warriors to be playing, given the state of this franchise right now. And again, the gravitational pull of 500 pulls this team back down to 15-15. They're also 8-8 away from Chase Center. This team is marred in mediocrity. Last year, Steph gave the quote of the year, which was that this team is painfully average. And right now, man, that feels spot on. We'll talk about it again more and more on Monday as the Warriors take on the Cavs. Again, the Warriors play tomorrow versus the Suns, but we won't be having no show tomorrow for Warriors Suns. We'll be back at it Monday after Warriors Cavaliers. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.